Alrighty, so news of the week episode on this Wednesday night, and while there hasn't been as much news as we've seen in previous news of the week episode, because we're getting close to the regular season, we're pretty much in the midst of the preseason. That is, there were definitely some bombshell transfer that has happened, some really surprising transfer that kind of happened, and this is one that I think people been wanting me to talk about since it was released on Monday, and that of course is the Columbus Crew. They have moved on from Cucho Hernandez. They have sold him to Real Betis for $16 million and some sell-on fees. Now, I can understand why Cucho Hernandez decided to go back to Europe, considering that, he is on the cusp of the Colombian national team. And really, the only chance, if he is going to get into the Colombian World Cup team in 2026 or even be a starter for this team, is that he needs to simply play in Europe. But that being said, though, I had a feeling that Cucho Hernandez was going to be sold off eventually. I didn't think it was going to be this winter transfer window. I thought maybe the summer or maybe the next winter transfer window might be the case if he has another MVP caliber kind of season. And also, not to mention, for $16 million, I mean, I know the sell on is still pretty big, but still, I feel like 60 million is way too low still for Cucho Hernandez. I thought he would be at least 25 or even $30 million, considering last year, some have argued he probably should have won the MVP award over Lionel Messi. Yeah, this is definitely something that I feel like they probably could have got more out of this deal than they did. But again, I can totally understand why Cucho Hernandez wants to make this move and in some way kind of almost forced Columbus to make this move because he really wants to be with the Canadian or the Colombian national team when the World Cup does happen in 2026. But that being said, this is a huge loss for the Columbus Crew, and as I'll mention in a bit, they look like they're going to lose another number 9 on their team, and all of a sudden there's a bit of a crisis for this Crew team in terms of the number 9 spot, and now all of a sudden for a team that looks like they could go toe to toe in all the competition, it seems like there's a little bit of a doubt after this sale of Cucho Hernandez and also another number 9 that they could also lose in a matter of days. But first of all, after this bombshell, of course, was dropped. Another big bombshell signing that we saw, though this one we kind of knew it was going to happen, and that, of course, is the Houston Dynamo acquiring U.S. men's national team midfielder Jack McGlynn in exchange for $2.1 million to the Philadelphia Union. And I believe this is the second time we have seen a transfer that involving cash because of the new rule, and I feel like that new rule is going to really change a lot of things, and that you're going to see teams that is going to be making more aggressive signing, especially interleague signing, that is where they don't really need to worry about burning general allocation money. They can just fork out the cash to do so. They don't need to use GAMP whatsoever, even if it's only for a limited amount. Of course, there is a limit that you can only do this twice in a single transfer window. But yeah, this is a big signing for the Houston Dynamo, and a perfect replacement for Coco Carrasquilla as well. Jack McGlynn, we saw what he did with the U.S. men's national team during the January camp. I wouldn't be surprised he's going to be back with the U.S. men's national team, maybe even in the Gold Cup as well. He has so much talent, and again, I was not expecting him to move to another team, especially I thought the Union was going to continue to develop him and eventually sell him off for a big amount of money. Now, the good news is the Union does get some sell on fee as a result of that. So if the Dynamo does eventually move on from Jack McGlynn, selling off to somewhere else, or most likely selling off to Europe, they are going to get at least some sort of fee out of that. But again, when I said the Union was really gutting their team and really going for a transitional period, I did not include Jack McGlynn as one of the players that is part of this rebuild that they're going through, and this really just massive teardown that they're going through heading into this upcoming season, and that has had a lot of Union fans concerned about this team heading into this season. Where if you thought last season was bad, yeah, this season could be even worse with how much of the core has just been completely gutted this off season. Though that being said, the Philadelphia Union did at least found a replacement straight away, and that of course is signing Serbian midfielder Jovan Lukic from FK Spartak Subotica. Now, again, this is a guy that I don't know too much about him, other than the fact that I've heard people say that when you look at the analytics, it's not really that good. But again, that's just analytics. That is, he could be a decent player, and the Union has known to have history of finding some hidden gems out there, even in some unknown known league that is, and turns out to do relatively well, and they're hoping that this is going to be the case to do so because losing Jack McGlynn, that is definitely a big blow to this midfield. And for Jovan Lukic, no pressure in terms of filling the shoe that Jack McGlynn basically left this team with him going to the Houston Dynamo. And then moving on in terms of the next news, and these next couple of news are pretty much just kind of confirmed signing that we knew from a long time. And one of those signing is Emmanuel Latilaf. I mean, we knew this was going to happen, and in many ways, I feel like this probably took a little longer than Atlanta wanted when it comes to the transfer. I mean, it feels like this transfer rumors has been going through pretty much for the whole off season, but they finally confirmed the transfer of Emmanuel Latilaf for a MLS league record transfer of $22 million. And I guess all it takes is them decided to kind of threaten Middlesbrough by saying that, well, we're gonna maybe sign this other guy called Arthur Cabral from Benfica if you decided to not complete this transfer, and maybe that kind of forced Middlesbrough hand a little bit the fact that, yeah, we got to complete this transfer before we're probably not going to get anything out of that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to do. One thing I have known about him is that he's a very fast kind of player. He's a very speedy kind of number 9. That is, and that could really help Atlanta if they are going to kind of play that and just there's no style of play heading into this season. But still, it's definitely an exciting signing, but also one signing that they expect him to make an impact straight away. I mean, you don't arrive to a club for $22 million and have a slow start. And I know some players might have to take time in terms of adjusting into a new league, but when you have that much or if your club play that much money to really they make an impact straight away, you better expect to do so. Because again, $22 million for a guy that he did relatively well doing his time in the championship. I mean, I feel like that fee is a little bit too big, but I guess that's kind of how it is when you trying to sign a player from the championship or even in the Premier League. The number always tends to inflate more when you sign player or decide to sell player to an English team. But still, there's a lot of expectation that he's going to have to live up to, especially being a club, not only a club record transfer, but a league record transfer as well. And then Orlando City have finally signed Marco Paslic as a designated player. Now, from what I've heard from Orlando City fans, they haven't been very impressed of him in terms of him being a DP. And again, the underlying number that he's shown isn't as impressive as they should be. But again, we'll see whether, of course, if that is going to be the case. And again, anytime when you, of course, are being labeled as a DP, you want to make a right impression, and we'll see whether or not if Marco Pasalic can do so. And the same goes for Manu Garcia after he, of course, have signed with Sporting KC as a designated player. Obviously, the other player that they sign is Shapi Suleimanov as part of the two players that they were linked with a couple of days ago, and we'll see how they would do. And that, remember what I said about Sporting KC of how it feels like this is a transitional year for them. It feels like maybe they're gonna take this year to kind of rebuild the new core that they have after they kind of move on from their old core this off season. Well, looks like they're looking to go through this transitional period relatively quick, and maybe they're gonna gun for playoff position quicker than I anticipated they would do. So that being said, moving on in terms of the next news, and this is actually a contract termination that we saw, and that of course is the San Jose Earthquakes. They have officially terminated the contract of Carlos Correzo, and I believe that also opens a DP spot for the Quakes because Correzo occupied one of the spot, and this one had to be done. I mean, it's been very disappointing in terms of Correzo time with the Quakes. But besides that one good season he has looked nowhere near as a DP caliber kind of player. And it's a shame too, because when he arrived, I was actually really excited about him, especially what he did in Europe and also what he did with the Ecuadorian national team and even in the World Cup as well. But just really never lived up to his potential. I mean, last season was kind of the big part of it, just a massive underachieving kind of season. Another example of the Quakes continue to botch DP left and right. I mean, this team has had a pretty long list of botched DP in their history, and I guess add Carlos Correzo to the latest list in terms of that. But at least the good news is they did make the right decision. I also don't think this count as a buyout as well because this is a mutual termination rather than an actual buyout. So the good news is that they still have those two buyouts left in them, and not to mention, I think that should open a DP spot for the Quakes to use for the remaining of this offseason. And then moving on in terms of transfer rumors. So remember earlier I said about how it doesn't seem like Cucho Hernandez is the only number 9 that's leaving the Columbus Crew in these upcoming days because another number 9 from the Columbus Crew is going to be moving on is Christian Ramirez. Now, before I really was hoping Christian Ramirez would return home as a Minnesota United player. I mean, obviously, I would, as much as I would love that to happen, it kind of doesn't really make sense because the Loons already have a good number 9 in Kevin Yoboa, and I doubt Christian Ramirez will want to play second fiddle to another MLS team. He wants to get some starting minutes, so it's no surprise that the LA Galaxy came calling straight away. I mean, this is a team that after they move on from Dejan Jovic, they clearly need a number 9, and getting Christian Ramirez is exactly the answer to do so. Remember when he was with LAFC, he did relatively well, and he also is becoming another latest player to play with for the two LA team. That's actually happened more often than not. We have seen players have played for both of the LA side. This is kind of something you don't see in the New York derby. That is, but it's kind of weird that it's happened more often than you think with these two LA team. But yeah, there's no doubt the Galaxy they need a replacement for Dejan Jovic. Ramirez will be a perfect replacement for him because he's kind of another one of those players that he just gets better as the age goes along. He feels like it's kind of a late bloomer. I will never give Minnesota for making a huge mistake a couple of years ago, letting him go. I mean, that's going to be a decision that really that kind of in some way set the team back when it comes to the number 9 position. They really didn't have a decent number 9 in that position until Kelvin Yoboa showed up just last season. It's almost like Ramirez kind of put a curse on the Loons that they're not going to have a decent number 9 for a very long time, and I don't blame him for putting that curse because I really feel like he was done dirty by the Minnesota front office, and that was definitely one of the bigger regrets. I think Minnesota United did a couple of years ago, and that as much as I really want him to return home, I can also understand why he decided to go to the Galaxy and consider LA is really his true home. He is from that area. Now, the New York Red Bulls, they're also set to sign Lewis Morgan to a new max TAM contract extension. That is, I think that's a good deal for the Red Bulls, especially for Lewis Morgan. He's been one of the more impact attacking player on this team, and not to mention for them not to have to use a DP spot to extend his contract. That is definitely a big bonus, and it looks like that's going to be the case. And then another potential bombshell rumor that could happen in the near future is DC United are reported to transfer their homegrown attacker Ted Gutierrez to the Colorado Rapids for 1.25 million cash add-on and also some sell-on fee as well. Again, this new player cash trade kind of rule that MLS have implemented this offseason. It's been an absolute game changer. We're starting to see teams that have been even more aggressive than ever before when it comes to making some signings. And yeah, this is another example of it. Though again, I'm kind of surprised DC decided to let him go. I mean, I know TKP kind of had a bit of a disappointing season last season. He kind of had a bit of a sophomore slump, but he's still a very decent player, and I expect him to have a bounce back year. What I didn't expect him is to get transferred to the Colorado Rapids. But hey, if that is going to be the case, I think that's a really good signing for the Rapids to continue to boost their midfield and maybe even get him getting some playing time as well. I mean, this Rapids team has already been very good on the attack end. This makes it even better heading into this season as well. And then Charlotte FC, their report to reject multiple bids from the English Championship for Patrick Agyemang. Now, there's no doubt that after an impressive display that Patrick Agyemang has shown during his time with the U.S. men's national team in the January camp, it's no surprise that there are a couple of teams in Europe that is looking to snoop around and trying to get him. Now, obviously, I think it's the right decision that Charlotte decided to not let him go. I think he's going to get get even better. I mean, last season we saw how good he is, and well, I said how good he was. He was kind of inconsistent at times, but keep in mind, last year Charlotte didn't really have a lot of playmaker on that team, and I feel like if he is if only there was going to be a guy that feed him the ball, he could easily be a 15 plus goal scorer in this league. But still, there's no doubt that Charlotte is not going to let go of him, and that there's no doubt he's going to get even better heading into this season. I would not be surprised he can score 10 or even 15 plus goal this season, and could be another U.S. men's national team number 9 for the future to look out for, because again, he did really well in the January camp, and I know it's just the January camp, and I know the opponent that the U.S. play are a relatively weak opponent, but yeah, that's pretty impressive to see the play that Patrick Agyemang has shown. Consider again, this is a guy that kind of came out of nowhere to really blossom for this Charlotte team last season, and it seems like he's going to get even better heading into next season as well, especially if he's going to get some help heading into this season as well. Now, the Vancouver Whitecaps, they are report to sign Lahar for Emmanuel Sabi. So I don't know too much about this guy, and I think Whitecaps fan probably don't even know too much about this guy either. And also signing a number 9, I mean, that's kind of an interesting decision. They already have Brian White in that position, unless maybe they can use him as a backup option, or they'll probably play in the two striker system. Again, it's kind of an interesting move. Though that being said, if you're a Whitecaps fan, you will welcome any move that you can get, because again, this team, it's been a very quiet off season for the Vancouver Whitecaps, and as I'll talk about in the season preview, which I think they're going to be the last team I'm going to talk about in the season preview. I'm going to try to make sure I do their season preview before they play in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, though no guarantee that of course is the case. But there is a lot of concern about the Whitecaps heading into this season, especially of how short they are when it comes to the roster. And it feels like their front office, even though they've been looking to try to sell this team throughout the entire offseason, it doesn't mean that they just think about just not making any moves wherever, or just completely checked out and say, yeah, we're not going to make any moves. We're already more interested in terms of selling the team rather than improve the team heading into this upcoming season. And then lastly, in terms of the last news that isn't or actually no, we're still not at the last news yet. We still got 2 more news to talk about. But really, the last news related to MLS is that there is actually a report suggesting that there actually is a bit of a rift between Lucho Acosta and Chris Albright, and I think that kind of is the reason why Lucho Acosta been wanted out from FC Cincinnati. I mean, we saw it last season with him kind of almost saying that he demand a trade away. And at first, I thought maybe it's just him kind of getting frustrated the fact that he's giving it all with FC Cincinnati, but unfortunately, it feels like they fell short every single time. But now this kind of makes a little bit more sense, the fact that yeah, there is a bit of a tension between him and Chris Albright. And I know it's very easy to choose side straight away. I think some people might choose the side of Chris Albright, consider of the relationship that he has with the players, and that this is really kind of the first time we ever seen him having a tension with a player, especially a star player like Lucho Acosta. And Lucho Acosta has had his history of being kind of a little bit of a hothead at time as well, and become a little bit too arrogant at time, and that's kind of the reason why people are not picking his side, and are kind of going against him. But either way, it what is done is done. They eventually did move on for Lucho Acosta, and that even though they didn't get as much money as they can, they had to do it. If this report is true, and especially the fact that it was pretty clear that Lucho Acosta was not happy with this team after the when they got eliminated to NYCFC. And as I said, it seems like he almost physically say that he demand a trade away, or even demand a transfer request away from this team. And with the no show that has happened, which I guess that's kind of also created a bit of a riff as well. I'm pretty sure Chris Albright is not happy the fact that he's not showing up to training camp despite the whole out that they've been in. Eventually, this broken relationship pretty much came to an end after they decided to move on from him. And then lastly, in terms of finally talk about the last news of this week. So Denver NWSL franchise actually broke a record for the fastest deposit of 5,000 members in just 2 hours. Now they actually sold 5,280 as the cap, which kind of makes perfect sense. Little bit of a reference to the Mile High City that is. But yeah, this is just shows you an example that yeah, Denver can definitely support a women soccer team, and it would be kind of crazy to see that if the NWSL team could draw almost as big a crowd or even outdraw the Rapids. That is, though it'll be very interesting to see where exactly they're gonna be play. I'm assuming for now they'll probably play at the home ground of the Colorado Rapids. They'll probably play at DSG, but I'm pretty sure they would really love to build their own stadium in Denver, and it makes sense that they want to build a stadium in downtown Denver because it kind of doesn't make sense if you want to place a new NWSL team out there and you decide to play all the way out to Commerce City. That's been really one of the key reason why I think the Rapids attendance has not been very good. I mean, besides the fact that the marketing thing hasn't been very good, I don't think the Rapids has done a good job in terms of marketing the Denver market. And I know this because multiple times when I went to Denver, there was no mentioning of the Colorado Rapids. I guarantee many people out there they don't even know that they even have an MLS team that is the Colorado Rapids. But there's no doubt that I think they're looking to try to build a new stadium more in the downtown area, so that way it would be easier for fans to go to the game. But also, not to mention, I think they've done a much better job when it comes to the marketing to compare to what we see with the Rapids, and also a combination when you have a new franchise like that, you know there's going to be a lot of hype and there's going to be a lot of signature that is going to happen, and yeah, again, certainly congratulate to this Denver NWSL team, and just another example that despite the controversy that surrounded, where people were a little bit skeptical whether or not if Denver can support a women's soccer team. Yeah, I think this answer has been pretty much been or this question has been pretty much answered with them getting a record amount of deposit in just such a short amount of period. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the latest news that's happened in these last couple of days. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this News of the Week episode, and if there's any news I didn't mention here in the last couple of days on the board, let me know in the comments below as always. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.